Welcome everybody to the Q&A session for the BTB Academy application process. My name's Eleanor Tack and I'm the Programs Coordinator at Bridging the Bar. In terms of how we're going to structure this talk this evening, I thought it might be useful to go through the guide which has been provided to all of our candidates. And we can go through that together, and this really is a very informal chat, so you can dip in and ask any questions whenever you want to. And we'll spend about 15 minutes on that, and then you can ask any questions that you need the answers to. So I share my screen. So this is the guide for the candidates. You should have access to this. Give me 1 second. So you should all have access to this, and you can find the link to it on our Instagram, on our LinkedIn, and on our Twitter. And I've also put a link to it in the chat. If you can't access that, then you can drop me an email at programs@bridgingthebar.org, and I can send that guide through to you. So the guide essentially details what exactly the Academy is. And I think it's really important that you read that and understand why we are launching the Academy. Essentially, as an organisation, so we launched in August 2020, and we've had lots of different programmes that we've provided. And what we found is that our applicants were getting application fatigue. There was lots of application processes that you had to go through. And so towards sort of middle of the academic year, people would drop off in terms of applications. So we've designed this Academy so that you can apply in one go, and you therefore have access to all of our resources. And through this application process, we will be able to select people for our programs. And what we found as well is those resources, when they were invested in a smaller number of candidates. So with the Supreme Court program, we had 8 candidates, and they had mentoring, they had mock interviews, they had live coaching. The results were sort of exponential. And hopefully the idea is that the 100 candidates that are selected for the BTB Academy will have all of these resources, and the results and the impact will be even bigger upon them. So when you sit down to do your application, I think it's really important that you get to grips with the objectives. This program is specifically designed for candidates who are applying for pupillage in February 2023. And we really want to give you the best possible written applications. So we're going to be trying to support you through talks, through putting you in touch with barristers, through our mentors, so that you can have a really good written application. We're also going to be doing advocacy training with various different debating and advocacy practical experience, which will enable you to really focus on those skills that you need during the interview process. And as well as this, we're going to be putting on a lecture series, having lots of insight events into the types of activities or the types of topics which come up in debates that surround diversity and inclusion. And so if you keep these objectives in mind, these are the types of candidates that we're looking for should have these objectives in mind, because this is what we really want to give you. And you'll see in the guide, I'm not going to go into too many details about the programs and the things that we have to offer, but if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat about the actual substance of the Academy, and we can discuss that later as well. Something that's really, really important to note is that if you're selected for the BTB Academy, then quite a lot of the programs and the activities that we do are mandatory. So it is going to be a very, very intense year. If you're in your final year of your LLB, it might be a little bit too much to take on the Academy at the same time. But if you feel like you want to apply for pupillage in this year and you want the Academy to support you, then please do go ahead. But the type of candidates that we're looking for are 100% committed to a career at the bar, and they are ready to put their best foot forward and really every weekend be doing some kind of work towards pupillage over this academic year. So there is a huge level of commitment that we're expecting from our candidates. And again, this goes into details about the programs that we have. Another thing when you're looking at applying is just take a quick look at the timeline. So lots of these are mandatory. So where it's got an M next to it, it is mandatory. So if this is a date which you can't do, then this is something you need to think about. And we've tried to get a timetable together at the start of the academic year so that you can look at the rest of the academic year and make that time and make that free ready for if you're part of the academy. So who is eligible? Anybody who is applying for pupillage in February 2023. Okay, so if you're doing your final year of your LLB and you are applying for pupillage, then you are eligible. If you're doing your graduate diploma in law and you're applying for pupillage this year, then you are eligible. If you are on the bar course and you're applying for pupillage this year, then you are eligible. If you did the bar course 2 years ago, you've applied twice and you're still pushing it and you're still trying, you are absolutely still eligible for this. If you've already secured pupillage, then you're not eligible for this program, and it wouldn't be of great use to you to do this program either. So turning to the selection process, so the application form is now open. The link to the application will still be in the guide as well, and you can find it on our social media. The application closed on the 26th of August. Now, this application date is not going to change. We're unable to extend this. The reason that we've got such a tight deadline and that it is the 26th of August is because we at Bridging the Bar then have to spend a week turning around those applications and sending them to our panelists. And our panelists need 1 month. I've allocated 26 days for our panelists to mark them. And it's a very quick turnaround because then we need to get going with the academy and all the programs and all the activities that we've organised so that you have as much under your belt as possible to put into your applications when you apply for pupillage at the end of January, and to prepare you for the interview process as we come into March. So there's 7 criteria that we're looking at, and they are detailed in the guide. You'll see in the application process, so it explains the application process. Basically, you've got this form which you have to fill in, and at the end of the form there's also a video interview. So you click on the link and you give the presentation which you've been asked to present, and you will then have 2 unseen questions which you need to answer. The application questions are all linked to a specific criteria. So if you look at the first question, what strengths do you possess which will make you a good barrister? It's linked to assessing criteria 1 and assessing criteria 2. So go back up in the guide and look at the criteria. So criteria 1, an academic excellence for achieving strong grades at university, an understanding of what a career at the bar entails. So you need to keep this criteria in your mind when you're doing the application. So once we've got all of the applications, we'll be sending them off to our panelists, and we're marking the applications by way of vertical marking. So what that means is that a panelist will be given, say, question 1 and only criteria 1 or only criteria 2. So say a panelist has been given assessment criteria 2 for question 1. That means, say we get 400 applications, they will keep criteria 2 in mind. So an understanding of what a career at the bar entails. and they will provide each candidate a score according to that criteria for that specific question. So imagine once you've written your application, you take each criteria which has been allocated to each question, and you think of that criteria and what score would you give yourself from 0 to 3. And if you're thinking, okay, it's only a 2, what can I do to get it up to a 3? And that's how we're marking the process. So it's absolutely essential that you look at this criteria. One bit of advice as well that I would say is that when you do the video interview part of the application, so you've got time to prepare the presentation ahead of the video. So you've got time to prepare this, and again, think about the criteria, have a look at that. Criteria 4, 5 and 6, you've got time to think about that. Have a read through the criteria and really have them in your mind before you start the video application, because adding in the waiting room, because when you do the video application and when you get the unseen answers, I've flagged up the criteria that we'll be assessing. So if you've got those in your mind, and say it flags up 5 or 6, you can think, okay, I know that this is assessing this criteria, so I need to frame my answer in a way that really focuses on those criteria. So just to go through the criteria then. So number 1, a commitment to academic excellence through achieving strong grades at university. So one of the things that you'll see at Bridging the Bar is that we operate on a best performance policy. So this basically means that we will take your best grade. So if you, in your undergraduate degree, experienced mitigating circumstances and achieved a 2-2, but during the bar course, you worked really, really hard and achieved an outstanding, then you'll get the best possible scoring, so number 3. And what we're trying to do with that is really account for mitigating circumstances. The bar course is where you performed as best as you possibly could, so that's the grade that we want to take. And this is broken down, and in your application form, you'll be asked to give a grade from 0 to 3 for your academics. If you do have any questions about this, about where you fall within that, you can drop me an email on programs@bridgingthebar.org, and I can help you with the score for your academia. But I don't think it's too difficult. You take the best score that you've got and you allocate that a score for the purposes of the application. So that's what we're really looking at when we talk about criteria 1. Criteria 2, an understanding of what a career at the bar entails. So we understand that our applicants might not necessarily have a vast amount of work experience. So this is why we don't assess how much work experience you have. But what we do want is from our candidates for them to demonstrate that they understand what a career at the bar entails. So that might be through a mini pupillage, that might be through contacting barristers on you just finding their email address and then having a phone call with them and asking them about what that means to be a barrister and what their job entails. Whether you've worked in a charity and then that charity has interacted with a barrister, whether you have personal experience instructing a barrister, all of these things demonstrate that you understand what a career at the bar entails. When you talk about the skills and the strengths required to become a barrister, the way that you talk about that, your understanding of the career at the bar will be demonstrated through that. So it's not necessarily about the amount of experience that you've got. It doesn't necessarily have to be legal experience. It's about your understanding of a career at the bar. And that can also be gained through research and through really giving it your best shot in terms of research. Because what we want is candidates who really understand what they're getting into and are really committed to a career at the bar. and that they can demonstrate in their application, because as I've said before, this is going to be a really, really intense program, and lots is going to be demanded of you, and it's a huge time commitment. So clear and persuasive written communication skills. This is something that will be assessed throughout all of the written questions. Think about paragraphs, think about headings, think about structure, definitely think about signposting. That is really essential. And think about your language. Is it appropriate, the way that you're using it? Think about sentence structure. Think about the way in which your language and sentence structure makes your argument or your answer come across more persuasively and clearly. Clear and persuasive, engaging oral advocacy skills. So when you are preparing your presentation for the video interview part, really think about, again, the structure of that, the way you're signposting it. Are you doing that in a way which enables the person watching and listening to follow your argument very clearly? And are you persuading them, convincing them that diversity and inclusion is important to you, and explaining why personally that's important to you? So number 5, understanding of issues faced by candidates and barristers from underrepresented backgrounds at the bar, and a commitment to remedying these issues. So one of the things that we want to create at Bridging the Bar through this academy is a community of 100 candidates that will hopefully go on to secure pupillage, and we'll support them as much as possible in that endeavour, but who will also support their peers. So the 100 candidates that engage with us through the BTB Academy will all come from very different backgrounds. In some ways, those backgrounds will intersect, but in some ways those backgrounds will be very different. So it's really important to us that we support our peers and our contemporaries in championing diversity. So we want our candidates to have an understanding of this as much as possible, and to have a real commitment and desire to support other candidates and the wider mission of championing diversity and inclusion. Because when these 100 candidates hopefully become barristers, they will be the future of the bar. They will be the bar, and they will be the barristers that are supporting diversity and inclusion and helping us reshape this profession into one which is more inclusive. Number 6, ability of a candidate to share their backgrounds and experiences in a way which will facilitate mutual learning with fellow candidates and stakeholders. So throughout all of our programs, thinking about the Court of Appeal, High Court, and Supreme Court programs that we have, the Law Commission, the Government Legal Department, we are putting our candidates in those spaces so that they can do some work experience and add to their applications and learn, and hopefully help them in securing pupillage. But it's also really important to our stakeholders that the candidates that we are putting there will thrive in that environment. That even though perhaps, for example, a candidate goes to the Supreme Court and doesn't see themselves represented in the 12 justices or the judicial assistants, but they are still able to have the confidence to be in that space, because our stakeholders want to learn from you. They want to hear about your experiences, hear about your stories. And one of the key objectives of our Supreme Court programme, for example, is mutual learning. And this idea that our candidates will give a presentation about their backgrounds, and the Supreme Court or other institutions that we engage with will learn from our candidates and help inform their policies, their procedures, in a way that they can make cultural change within the profession and really just share ideas. So we're looking for candidates who have the confidence to do that and who can sort of own their story as well. And that's something that's really, really important for all of our programs. And even in our mini pupillages as well, we want our candidates to feel like they can share their backgrounds and that they will be good barristers because of their backgrounds and who they are, not despite of it. At Bridging the Bar, we really encourage our candidates to have this mindset of you're going to be a barrister because of who you are exactly. And number 7 is likelihood to benefit from participating in the BTB Academy. So again, we really want to access candidates that need our assistance. And if you can put this into application as much as possible, talk about your background and why you want to be part of the academy, how it will help you. If you have applied for pupillage before and been unsuccessful, talk about that and talk about how you think Bridging the Bar could be the turning point for that. And I think this is one of our most important criteria, is that we want our candidates to benefit as much as they possibly can. And that's the reason that most of our programs since we launched in August 2020 have not been given to candidates who've secured pupillage, because we want to really assist the candidates that need it the most. Now, in terms of those criteria, so as I've explained, a panelist will give you a score for a specific criteria in relation to a specific question. And the total number of scores that you could possibly get is 51. So you'll be given a score out of 51 for your application. The highest scoring candidates, the top 100 highest scoring candidates, will be selected for the BTB Academy. So that means the candidates with the highest score out of 51. At the same time, with these individual scores, we'll be able to give each candidate a score for each of the criteria. So the candidates that are the 100 top candidates will then also be able to be ranked in terms of likelihood to benefit from participating in the academy, understanding of issues faced by other candidates, clear, persuasive and engaging oral advocacy, etc. And so each candidate will have an overall score and a score for their criteria. Now, some of the programs and initiatives that we're offering, for example, the advocacy training, that's going to be offered to all 100 of our BTB Academy. Other programs, such as the Supreme Court program or the Government Legal Department program, they have a very limited number. So, for example, the Supreme Court program only has 8 places. The Supreme Court, as with all of our other stakeholders, will come to us with a list of criteria which they prioritize. So they're ranking these 7 criteria. So, for example, and I'm using the Supreme Court as an example because it's one of the easiest ones for me to talk about. They really highly value number 6. So those candidates, those 100 candidates that are selected for the academy, those that are ranked highest for number 6, for example, will be placed in the Supreme Court program. And I'm diluting this slightly because there will also be other criteria which the Supreme Court emphasizes, so we'll have to aggregate that as well. And then, for example, for a mini pupillage program, perhaps one of our stakeholders really values clear, persuasive and engaging oral advocacy. And again, that will be, so we'll rank the candidates with the highest scoring number for that criteria, and they'll be given to that stakeholder. So it is really important to think about the criteria, because we at Bridging the Bar are using that criteria to help put you in the best possible program where you are the best fit for the stakeholder, and you will also benefit the most from that program as well. Now this, I don't know if any of you are sort of frantically writing, we are recording this and we will be putting this on our website as well, and we will be attaching the link to the guide. But if at any point you do have any other questions as well, you can contact me on programs at Bridging the Bar. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I see we've got, you can have a look in the chat. If anybody wants to come off their microphone and ask any questions, then you are welcome to.
Hello, good afternoon. Can I ask you a question possibly?
Yes, of course.
If I may. Thank you very much for your nice lecture. Happy to see you here, and thank you very much for holding such a session for us. Regarding the selection criteria, actually all those 7 criteria has to be included in our in a written piece of work, or how does it work at all? Because I just received this email in the afternoon. I hadn't got much time to look into that. that's why
So
a bit.
if you look at in the guide, and I've sent a link to it in the chat,
Yes, yes, yes.
there is so there's a written part to the application, and there's also a video interview as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for each question, there is specific criteria allocated to it. So for example, question 1 will look at criteria 1 and criteria 2, but it won't be looking at the other criteria. A question 2 will be looking at criteria 1 and criteria 2 and 5, but it won't be looking at the other criteria. Does that answer your question?
Almost. And how long how many words should our actually written piece of work for this application should?
It's written in the guide. So
Okay.
Each question, it's also written on the application form. So question 1, 250 words, 6 points available.
Okay.
Question 2, 200 words, 9 points available. And it will be in the guide. And
Okay.
all of the answers on the video application are 1 minute long.
Okay, and how many candidates will be selected at the end of the day?
100.
100.
Yes.
Okay, it's a fair amount actually.
Hi, I've got a question.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what I want to ask is, for people going to their final laws, like for myself at the moment, LLB, and I'm looking into this. If it's like you said, it might be a little bit of a burden taking it up, and it's up to the individuals. Is there going to be another opportunity for this in the next 2024?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if this goes well, then hopefully yes.
All right, perfect. And then that leads me to the second question, which was on the application form. It asked about the chamber that you are going to be doing your pupillage with. So obviously, like I said, a final year law student, not really been given that opportunity yet. What could we do in that position? Because I thought I might leave it blank, but I said, let me ask first to see what you think.
I think the best thing to do would be to spend, so that part of the application form is to see which chambers that you're interested in, so that when we do, when we allocate for mini pupillages, when we allocate for advocacy training, if we happen to have that chambers as one of our volunteer chambers, we can link you together. So if there's a particular practice area that you're interested in, say if you're interested in commercial law, just have a quick Google, look on Legal 500, which chambers appeal to you. If you were applying for pupillage this year, well, you have to be part of the program, but if you're going to apply in January and you imagine yourself applying, which chambers would you be applying to? And that's really what that that part of the form is asking.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'm just going to take a moment to go through some of the questions that are in the chat. So, are transferring qualified lawyers eligible to apply for the academy? Yes, they are. Provided that you're transferring within this academic year. It's suggested to complete the form and copy and paste the answer in afterwards, but the form does not appear to be replicated in the guide for us to prepare the questions in advance. All the questions that will appear in the form in terms of the application are in the guide. So you can take those questions and prepare them in a Word document. All the other questions that appear in the form are diversity and inclusion ones that shouldn't take too long to answer. If you had university, so we've got a candidate here that says, I'm doing the GDL part-time, and that means that my university workshops are roughly every third weekend. What would happen if my university weekend clashed with an event? Would I be able to not attend? So this is something that if you drop me an email, if you're looking at the rest of the academic year and looking at the timeline that we've set out and you're thinking, yeah, this isn't going to work, drop me an email. It might be the case that not everything is mandatory, but there are certainly the advocacy training and the retention and regression lectures, etc. They are mandatory. So do drop me an email and we can see if we can work around that. It's also something that's interesting for me as well, to see what the timetable of your university classes are, so that in the future, when I'm timetabling it, I can make account for part-time students who are working at the weekend, or who have university at the weekend. So do drop me an email about that. Will the mandatory sessions be held in person or virtually? Most of the sessions, I'm really trying to put them in person. So, for example, the lectures, we've got 2 lectures that will be run by Elaine Banton from the Bar Council. I want them to be in person because I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some barristers to come along, and there'll be a networking opportunity as well. Some of the sessions, so for example, the induction session will be virtually. And so I think it's a mixture of the two. All sessions that are held in person will, we do have the options at Bridging the Bar to fund your travel if you need that to come down to London, for example. The advocacy training that we're doing in February, if you're based outside of London, I can't disclose which chambers we've currently secured, but we do have some chambers outside of London, in Manchester, for example, who will be doing the training with us. So hopefully that will accommodate any travel restrictions that you have. If you are yet to complete your LLB as you're going into your final year, what grade will be taken into account? If you're in your final year of your LLB, then please put your predicted grade on there, and we will ask for your, and then we might ask for evidence of that as well. If there should be an option on the form to note down if you need to make any notes about anything. If you have put your predicted grade down, or calculated the score with the predicted grades, if you put the score and then put predicted, and that will just flag that up to me. Sorry, I've just seen that someone said, can you zoom in to make the text on the screen larger? I'm sorry, but there is the link to the guide in the chat, which you can have a look at. Will the Academy be run yearly, or is it a one-off opportunity? Again, hopefully we'll be able to run it again next year, should it go well. In terms of, does a candidate need to have the right to work to be eligible for the BTB Academy? There are certain programs with our stakeholders where you will need to have the right to work because they are paid. But don't think that should act as an entire exclusion from the Academy in itself. If you want to drop me an email, that person who's asked that question, I can double check that and look at your personal circumstances. I was just wondering if the university you go to matters in the application process, either in looking at the point score on your grade, or whether going to a university with already high progression to the bar could disadvantage your application at all. So there is no option for you. So we do ask on the application form about your university, but that's for our diversity and inclusion monitoring, and to see which candidates are coming forward to us, but they will not be looked at when you are, by any of the panelists and any of the scoring. So the university that you go to will not be detrimental to your application, or it will not add anything to your application. It's completely blind. We are really trying to encourage candidates from non-Russell Group universities to apply, and we're working with universities to try and advertise and do as much positive recruitment as possible. But there won't be an option for that to make a difference in your application itself. I've got a candidate here saying, if you're yet to achieve an undergraduate degree and have just passed your second year going on to third year from September, would you use your best grade out of your first two? So as I said, you can do a predicted grade and also do an average of your first two. Just put as much information as possible into that box and explain that you've not got your grade yet. International students are not held at a disadvantage.
Would I be able to follow up just on something you just answered before you move too far away from it? Someone just asked about what what they do if they're going to be going into their final year of their LLB. But if the application deadline is at the end of August, then surely they're not eligible because they have to already be in their last year of their LLB in order to apply.
So you have to be in your third year of university to apply for pupillage.
Sure. So someone that's going into their third year in September will not be able to apply for the scheme. Is that right?
So if you can apply for pupillage in February 2023, well, January 2023, which a candidate that's going into their third year of university this year would be,
I see. Okay.
Then you are eligible.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks.
No worries.
Hi, sorry. On that question, can I ask another question
of course.
Following that? Thank you very much. So I wanted to ask, because I'm also going into my final year in September, I wanted to ask if, say, I did apply for this, would I be at a disadvantage on the point scoring system? Because I can see that they're taking into account like the bar as well. Like I wouldn't have done that.
So the points-based system is that we take your highest score. So what that means is that you won't be at a disadvantage if you've done, say, for example, someone's done a master's. So quite often when you apply for pupillage, chambers will operate on a points-based system. So you have a certain score for your undergraduate degree, a certain score if you've done a master's, a certain score if you've done for what you've got on the bar course. We don't operate on that policy. We take your best score. So there's only one score generated. So if you've done got a certain grade in your undergraduate degree and you get a score, then you get the highest possible grade that you can get at 0.3, then you've got the highest possible grades that you can get at 0.3. And somebody who's also done a master's and also done the bar course and got the highest possible grades, they will also only get a 0.3. So you're not at a disadvantage at all.
All right, thank you very much.
May I ask a question? But I think Natalie and Edward had their hands up before me.
Whoever wants to go ahead and ask.
Richard Edmund, sorry.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Catherine. My question is just if you have any examples of the sort of things that you might be asked for the unseen question or questions.
There isn't really any examples that I can give you without giving anything away. My advice would be to really look at the criteria.
Yeah.
And try and think what questions would we ask to assess those criteria.
Okay, so they wouldn't presuppose any legal knowledge. They wouldn't be based. Is it possible they might be based on other things that we've said in the application?
No.
Or will it be a general sort of thing that could be asked to anybody?
There is no knowledge that we require you to have in terms of specific legal knowledge. We're certainly not testing your legal abilities in the oral questions. I would revise again, look at the criteria and have a think about what questions could be asked, and then have a sort of revise about those questions that might come up. Have a look at the written questions and look at the style of questions that we're asking. I think that's a good indicator as to what type of thing will come up in the oral interview.
Great, thank you.
Hi, is it okay for me to ask a question now?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so with regards to grades at university, I have an undergraduate degree, but it was a medical degree, so it's not classified in a similar way to other degrees because you get pass, merit or fail. It's almost like a master's. So you can get and the mark boundaries are really high. Do I just put my percentages down for my years?
Yeah, you can put the percentages down for your years and it would operate on the same points-based system. So any non-law degree, if you've got like a first class, then that would be 3 points.
Yeah, because it's very odd the way medical degrees are examined. And second question, which relates to, I think, some of the points raised earlier. How early is too early? Because I would be looking to apply for a pupillage drawdown award and I'm on the part-time GDL. I started last year, but I had to take some time off because of personal reasons. how far in advance do chambers advertise their pupillages? Do you happen to know? I know it varies between chambers and specialty, but what's the longest period of time?
The pupillage, sorry, what's your question? Is when can you apply for pupillage?
Yes, because I know some chambers advertise their pupillages well in advance of your pupillage start date, if that makes sense.
So the application, the written as it stands, and the Bar Council is potentially thinking about moving the application's dates, but as it stands, you submit your application around about the 4th of February. And then they mark the applications over February, and then March you have your interviews. And some chambers, your interviews will be for pupillage that coming October, or it can be for the year ahead. So sometimes that's why when you do your LLB, you are eligible, because you may apply and get pupillage in say May, and then you have 1 year left to do the bar course because you've secured pupillage for a year ahead. But I think I saw once the chambers that was doing it 2 years ahead. But
yeah, I have seen
that.
I just don't want to take the place of someone who, if we were to be successful, I wouldn't want to take the place of someone who has a more imminent time scale. But equally, I want to do it during my first year of the GDL rather than during the second year, which is more intensive in terms of the topics.
If there are chambers which are possible for you to apply for pupillage 2 years ahead, then have a look at those, and that would make you eligible. But if not, then it would just be a case of applying next year.
Thank you so much. Sorry for taking up so much time.
No worries. Thank you.
Can I ask you another question? It's regarding the pupillage, actually.
Go ahead.
Actually, as you just mentioned, the pupillage application should be made at the 2nd of February 2023.
Yes.
So if you are going, if you were successful, you are going to start your pupillage in 2024.
It depends where you're applying for pupillage. Some chambers, if you apply in this sort of cohort of pupillage, and you get in May of next year, you get offered pupillage, it might be the case that you'll be starting in October of next year, or it might be in the case that you're starting the following year, so 2024. It really depends on the chambers.
And it should be done. It should be applied through the. Actually, there is a specific website.
The Pupillage Gateway.
Pupillage Gateway. It's like, it works like UCAS, because when I was applying to go to the uni, I had to apply through the UCAS, and it was by this forum.
And it is worth noting as well that there are some chambers that do require applications along the same time scale as the Pupillage Gateway, but not through the actual Pupillage Gateway system.
Okay.
Okay. Natalie Campbell, did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a sad violin, but I've made lots and lots of applications to lots and lots of things ever since I've started, and I just seem to be consistently unsuccessful. And I just wonder what, if any, guidance or kind of what you could say to someone that's kind of feeling like they might be not really worth applying at BTB. I think I'd be a great BTB candidate, but I just seem to never get anything. So,
well, firstly, I'm sorry that you're feeling like that, and I think this is exactly one of the things that we are addressing through the BTB Academy, because we've got life coaching, workshops on confidence versus courage, and one of the things that we talk about during our life coaching is this idea of confidence. And when you apply for something, or you stand up for something, and you do public speaking, for example, often we think, oh, we're not very confident and we're not very good. And what we're doing is we're comparing our confidence to other people's confidence. We think that other people who are getting lots of applications, they must be feeling really confident. Other people that are standing up and public speaking, they must be feeling really confident because they appear really confident, and I feel really small and like I'm not confident. But in our life coaching, what we encourage our candidates to do is to, instead of thinking of confidence, think of courage. Because when you stand up to public speak, you just need to be courageous. You just need to put yourself out there and give it a good shot. And the scarier it is, and the more insurmountable it feels, and the more impossible you think it could be to get this application, or to stand up and talk in this moot, or to stand up for the first time on your feet, the more courageous you are being. And so that's what you need to seek, is courage rather than confidence. So that would be my confidence in terms of your mindset going into this. And in terms of the application, the BTB Academy is designed specifically for people who really need assistance in going through the application process, who feel like the odds are stacked against them. So look at number 7 on the criteria, the likelihood to benefit from the scheme. Talk about that this has been difficult and that you've been trying so hard and that you really, really want this, and explain how you demonstrate that you really, really want this despite all of those rejections. And that is the exact type of BTB candidate that we want.
Thank you. That was good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And feel free to drop me a message if you want to talk about anything, Natalie.
So much.
Zoe, did you have a question?
Hi, sorry I did ask in the chat, but I think loads of people have been chatting. So I just wanted to ask if likelihood to benefit, because I've had the luck to be involved with BTB for a while, and I've been able to secure a couple more minis through you. But I just wondered if that would make me less desirable for the scheme, because I still don't think I stand a chance with pupillage next year, but I really like the help. But then I've already benefited a bit already. Does that make sense? I don't want to take a place of someone that will really, really need it.
Well, that's something that our panelists will assess. But certainly in your application, you can talk about the fact that the impact that Bridging the Bar has had on you so far, and why you think you need more help from Bridging the Bar, and what more we can do to help you. And I think it's definitely worth still putting your application in, giving a good shot. And because you've got these mini pupillages, and because Bridging the Bar has assisted you, I think that would look really, really good on your application. So definitely don't be discouraged from applying.
Thank you.
I'm just going to look at a couple of questions in the chat. So I think it might have been some questions that people have also asked. Are the oral questions focused on specific themes that are of interest to the programme at hand? Again, just look at the criteria and think about the types of questions that we could ask, the types of themes that come up when thinking about the criteria, and try and you can practice those sorts of questions that are around the criteria. I think I've answered quite a lot of the questions that are in the chat. Your referees don't have to have known you for a certain amount of time. It's when a professional referee does tend to be a supervisor or someone who's more senior to you. And the mentors will be allocated according to the mentee's desired practice area or organisation, as much as we possibly can. So we have limited resources. We have our incredible volunteers that are giving up their time to be mentors. Perhaps it won't necessarily align that we've got a perfect amount of mentors in a certain practice area for a certain amount of candidates, but really we are trying to match you with the best possible mentor for you. So hopefully they will be in your practice area, and if not, then they'll have definitely gone to bar school, or definitely have some colleagues that are in your practice area. So definitely use that resource still.
I'm sorry, am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, sorry. It's just that I'm a member of Bridging the Bar, but it's just that for like a few programs, such as, if I'm not wrong, like the recent email that I got regarding the Guru Nanak scholarship, it's just that a few of the programs mentioned that you have to be, you should have gone to a state school, received free school meals, etc. But the thing is, I'm an international student and none of that like applies to me. So in that case, am I not eligible to apply anymore? Or I don't know, I was just a little confused.
So the scholarship, and there are certain specific things that we have at Bridging the Bar which are specifically directed at certain groups. So candidates have only been to state schools, for example. The BTB Academy doesn't have such a restriction, so you are still eligible for the BTB Academy.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
So with regards to the specific programs, such as the Government Legal Department, Supreme Court, if a candidate has previously done one of those programs, will BTB, will that be noted such that the candidate does not repeat the program? Yes, please put that on your application where possible. There's a point when you're asked to rank which programs are of interest to you. And if you rank, say you've done the Government Legal Department internship, rank that at the lowest and then say, because I've already done it, I don't want to do it again. That's really important. So yeah, please do mention that. I have just completed the LLB and I'm hoping to proceed to do the bar course in January 2023 at TIC. Am I still eligible to apply this year? If you are applying for pupillage in February 2023, then you're eligible to apply for the BTB Academy. For those that keep a religious commitment, such as Sabbath, would not be able to attend events held on Saturday, for example, is there any leniency, or should you know now you cannot attend, you should not apply? So there are, if you cannot attend some of the events due to religious reasons, do drop me an email and let me know. For example, the personal development workshops I've done on both Saturdays and Sundays, and there's different group allocations because I know that some people are going to be at church on a Sunday, and Sabbath on a Saturday. So just drop me an email and we'll try and work it around. There should be at no point should you think that you are not eligible for the program or that you can't apply because you have religious holidays or religious practices which mean you can't attend on certain days. So do drop me an email and we can accommodate that. Only candidates applying, yeah. Can we see the other assessing criteria, like the third one? Only some criteria were mentioned in the guide. All the criteria, all 7 of them are in the guide. So I don't know, Kimberly, if you wanted to clarify what you meant by that. But all 7 of the criteria are in the guide. The guide was released as soon as we opened the applications. So somebody's asked how the specific programs are allocated. So I've talked a little bit about the criteria and how stakeholders prioritize certain criteria, and that's how we allocate which candidates would be best suited. There is also an opportunity to rank which programs are of interest to you. So you should pop that on there. I don't currently have a list of which criteria all of the stakeholders prioritize to hand. And that is not, it's not quite how the application is going to be working. So if you think about all the criteria and you put your best foot forward for all the criteria, then we'll be able to put you with the best possible program. I think it would be very complicated for a candidate to specifically target getting a higher score in a criteria compared to a different criteria with the view of targeting a certain program within the academy. So I understand what this person's asking, but so I can't give you the exact criteria for each of the programs or what each of the stakeholders have indicated. Just try and do your best for each criteria, and then that's something that we deal with on our end when we're allocating.
Question, please.
Yes, of course.
When you mentioned earlier on that in providing written answers or even video responses to questions on the application, signposting, or I think flag posting is something which is useful. I'm not quite sure what that means. I know what that means with reference to, say, a written submission or an oral submission and mooting, but in an application such as this, what do you mean by signposting or flag posting?
Okay, let me have a look at those no questions. So for example, question 2, childcare commitments are the biggest factor preventing the retention and progression of women at the bar. That's quite an easy question to signpost for. So just a simple signpost would be, I disagree with this. I disagree with this statement for 3 reasons, and then you list those 3 reasons. So that's signposting. If you look at question 1, what are your strengths? My strengths are my...
Could you just repeat what you just said? The connection just lapsed in between, sorry.
Yeah, of course, no worries. Sorry, I probably said it too quickly. So number 2, the question is, childcare commitments are the biggest factor when preventing the retention and progression of women at the bar. Do you agree? So you don't have to use this phrasing. This is not particularly beautiful phrasing, but you could say, I disagree with this statement for 3 reasons. And then reason 1, blah, 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 reason 2, blah, 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 reason 3, blah, blah, blah. So that is an example of signposting. And then and you could also have what strengths do you possess which will make you a good barrister. And then you list your 3 strengths. So my strengths that will make me a good barrister are my oral advocacy, my written communication, and my resilience. And then that's signposting, and then you go on to talk about that. And I think that's quite easy to do when going into a written question, but it's something which is also equally important when you do an oral question. So when the question appears on the screen, I know you've only got a minute to answer. So the first question you'll have already prepared because it's a 1-minute presentation. The next 2 questions, when you're asked that question, take a deep breath and think, what am I going to say? And how many points have I got to say? So if you've got 2 points to say, then look into the camera and say, I'm going to say 2 points. And then your first point and your second point. And that is a really simple way of signposting.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It was super helpful. Thank you.
No worries. It says here, is it likely for you to have mentors from the employed bar, such as the CPS and the GLD, or will they all be from chambers? I think we definitely have some from the GLD. I think I've met a mentor from the CPS. If that's something that is of interest to you, note that on your application. If you're then selected for the academy, drop an email and say, by the way, I really wanted somebody from the employed bar. Could you let me know? And then we can make that happen.
Just a quick question from you, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Some of us are in full-time work as well, so I just wanted to know if the timetable kind of accommodates us who are also working Monday to Friday.
So I've tried to do all of the additional programs or the additional initiatives on the weekend to accommodate people that are working. And then in terms of things like the government legal department, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, High Court, etc. These are all programs that will be during the week.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll have adequate notice to notify your employers.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
And they'll be paid as well.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about the unseen questions. Are they competency based? They're basically assessing the criteria. So if you have a look at the criteria, for example, one of the criteria is the ability of the candidates, like persuasive advocacy and oral advocacy, and the ability to articulate oneself. So that is competency. Whereas some of them are also looking at a candidate's understanding of issues representing other candidates from underrepresented backgrounds. So just have a look at the criteria, which criteria has been assigned to each question, again, in the video interview, when the question comes up, maybe print off the criteria and have it near you, because when the question comes up, I've written, this is assessing criteria X and Y. So that should answer your question on that one. Are applications marked on a rolling basis? No, all the applications will come in and then we'll mark them all in one go. If you are having any technical difficulties with your with logging in, we are currently getting a new website and sort of revamping everything. So as long as you've got your BTB candidate number, that's all that matters. Whack that into the application, and that should be all that you need at the moment. And then in terms of signing into the portal, if you drop us an email, and then hopefully towards sort of November time, we'll be in a position to sort out any difficulties that people have had with this. Again, you don't need to have completed the bar course to be eligible for this program. As long as you're applying for pupillage this year, then you are eligible to apply. You're correct, there are 2 unseen video questions. So there's the presentation and then the 2 unseen ones. So the Academy isn't necessary. So one candidate has asked if the Academy will help with non-gateway chambers applications as well. So we're not helping with specific applications. We're not getting coaching from specific chambers on their application process. We're helping with your written applications. So there'll be a consultancy panel and you can talk to your mentor and have all of these opportunities. And the knowledge that we're giving you and the skills that we are giving you will assist you whether you're applying to the employed bar, whether you are applying to a pupillage through the pupillage application, through the pupillage gateway, or chambers outside of the gateway. So it's not that we're specifically helping for chambers through the gateway, but they are all on the same timetable. Okay, does anybody have any other questions that they'd like to ask?
Yes, please, if you don't mind. I've got another. In the case of a successful application for the Academy, will we be provided with some help regarding application to apply for mini pupillage?
To apply for mini pupillages, so if you have your mentor, we'll be allocating your mentor to you. Mm-hmm. Your mentor should be allocated to you by mid-October. So I think that might be a little bit late for lots of the chambers to apply for mini pupillages. If you want to do it ahead of the pupillage gateway season. But use your mentor, they should be able to look over any applications that you have, hopefully. And you will have access to a mini pupillage through the Academy, mm-hmm. through the practice area of your choice, at least one. And there should be a consultancy panel as well, where if you have a particular application that you want to look over or you have any questions on that, we can put that out to our group of volunteers and see if they can assist with that.
But what you just a couple of minutes ago, actually, you told us the deadline for pupillage applications through the gateway gonna be at the 2nd of February 2020. Why would it be still late if you apply in October, which is well in advance of the deadline for application? Why would it be late, as you just said?
For example, there's some chambers that if you want to apply for a mini pupillage in November with the chambers, then you need to apply before July.
No, for pupillage, I mean.
Oh, for pupillage, then yes, we're absolutely available to assist with pupillage applications. Yeah.
Okay, because as you understand, because actually some chambers provide their mini pupillages during the year. For example, I have found a couple of them which their application deadline it's at the end of September or early September, mm-hmm. even.
For pupillage?
No, for mini pupillage.
Yeah.
I mean, they operate, some of them all around the year. Some of them, they just operate in the summertime.
Yes, exactly. Okay. No worries. Does anybody have any other questions at all?
And yes, the deadline is the 26th. Sorry.
26th of August.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, if I may ask one more question.
Of course.
This is to do with a certain aspect of the program which deals with advocacy training. For some candidates who might not have as extensive or even as impressive an advocacy track record at the time of application, would the experience and the training given on the program count so far as pupillage applications are concerned towards useful advocacy experience that can really strengthen a person's application? Or is this principally intended to give training and not to give a kind of pointer that you can flag on your CV or your application as part of your advocacy armory?
So I would say it's something that you can definitely flag to chambers. So there's two elements to the advocacy training that we're providing, the advocacy opportunities. So we have, so for example, a general advocacy workshop that we're looking to provide for our candidates, funding dependent, in December. So this is something that you can add on to your application. It talks about general advocacy, and that's something that will be really good for your application. Then we have other opportunities that were provided to some applicants. So for example, the Temple Garden Chambers debate. So if you engage with that, then you can put that on your application as well. And then the other element of our advocacy training is that in February of 2023, so you've submitted your written application for pupillage. In February 2023, chambers, I'm in the process of securing chambers, we've got about 10 so far, will be giving bespoke training to a group of 6 candidates on the types of interview advocacy exercises that you get. So that might be, so for example, we ran this training with 6KBW, and it was every Saturday in February, and it focused on plea and mitigations, statutory interpretation, bail applications. So yes, those are interview advocacy exercises, and it will be assisting you in building those skills, sort of like running jump into the interview process in March. But you can also talk about that on your application the following year if you need to, about advocacy experience that you have, as bespoke training that you've got. But note that that training has happened after you've done your written application.
Super, thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Just to ask a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
All right. The question I was going to ask, just following up from what you just said, based on the experience that we're going to be getting, if selected on the advocacy program and all of this put together and applying for pupillage, would you say for anyone that will be selected, for them to just fully focus on this year intense period, or would you say they could also consider applying for other internship programs that they will build up from the experience? What would you say towards that?
As in programs outside of Bridging the Bar?
Yeah, just outside, like to get my experience, instead of them focusing on the year long. Would you say it's a little bit more beneficial for them to just focus on this year because it's got everything, or for them to build up more on their application for pupillage, they might consider to do some more internship?
So it's completely up to you. If you have a look in the guide and you have a look at the timeline and you look at the high level of time commitment which is required from this program, if you look at that and think, okay, I can handle more stuff additional to this, then of course, by all means, go ahead. I personally wouldn't do that because I don't know what position you're in, but if I was in my final year of a law degree, or if I was on the bar course, that's stressful enough and I'd be exhausted. And then doing this academy is a huge, huge time commitment. And a lot of what we're doing as well, so in terms of the personal development workshops and the advocacy training, is going to require preparation outside and ahead of the lectures or ahead of the activity that you're doing. And if you want to get the most out of this academy, think about how much you're going to invest in each program that we do, each thing that we do. Say, for example, the lecture series that we're organising about access to the bar and culture change this is a lecture which is going to be really useful for you in terms of learning about the profession and the challenges that it's facing the profession. But also it will be really good for your pupillage interviews. If you go away after that lecture and you're like, okay, this is an interesting topic, I'm going to research more about this, everything that BTB has taught me, and so that you could have an even wider knowledge. If you connect with people that you've been networking through Bridging the Bar, you want to have that time to be able to meet them for coffee, or perhaps shadow a barrister that you've met through Bridging the Bar. So I think I would be weary to take on too much stuff. And also just in terms of your mental health as well, you don't want to be taking on too much stuff, or I personally wouldn't want to be taking on too much stuff. So if I was in this position, I would apply for the academy and just give my absolute all to the academy.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your help.
Are there any other questions?
How long this academy will last for? How long it's gonna run actually? How long do we have to commit ourselves?
From September. So the applications close on the 26th of August. Hopefully I'll be informing candidates by the 5th of October. And then we'll be supporting you through until June of next year. But in the guide, you will see that there are ebbs and flows. So for example, October, November, very busy. And then December dying down, January a little bit, but not much, because I know that you'll be writing your applications, and that some people will have exams. And then February, very intense advocacy training every weekend. And then March, if you've got interviews, it'll be dying down a bit as well. And then May into exams, etc., it'll be dying down. So do have a look at the guide, and you'll have a look and see. And then alumni training will hopefully be around June. And then so it's the full academic year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. It was very helpful. Thank you very much
All right.
for holding
Well,
such a. Are you a barrister? If you don't mind to ask you this.
no, I'm not a barrister.
Okay.
I'm just the programs coordinator at Bridging the Bar.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you all. I think just one point, if you are hesitant about applying and you're not sure about applying, then please do. There's it's always helpful to practice the application process, but really do put your best foot forward. Think about the criteria, and this is a really, really great opportunity. And all the candidates that I've met that have interacted with Bridging the Bar have had such an amazing experience, and it has been incredibly beneficial. And you'll see in the guide as well, we talk about one of the candidates who applied for pupillage one year, didn't get it, and then the year that she interacted with Bridging the Bar and she applied again, she got 9 offers. So this is also, it's giving you a really good opportunity to gain some experience, but also be part of 100 candidates who are supporting each other, and you can go through this traumatic experience of applying for pupillage together. So if you are hesitant, kind of ignore that and still please do apply.
Hi, can I interrupt and ask a question, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course.
So I haven't actually asked any questions so far. I was listening to everyone, and there were some great questions, but please say if you can't answer this, but do you have any understanding of what kind of number of people, of applicants you might be getting? Because I know you've just touched on the topic of being hesitant, and I'll be honest with you, I am a little bit hesitant. So it would be nice to know, kind of, do you have any understanding of how many people might be?
I predict that about 400 candidates will apply. So you have a 1 in 4 chance of applying, of being successful. That's what I think. I may be surprised, and we may get thousands of applications, which kind of ruins how I've planned the whole marking procedure. But so that might be the case, or because we currently have no cap on the applications, or we might only get 150 applicants. I've run programs before where I was expecting at least 300 applicants, and we only got 126. So I can't tell you how many candidates will be applying, but I think we'll get about 400. And I do think, what I was saying earlier about courage versus confidence, just got the courage to go for it, and don't think about stats, don't think about who else is applying. Just really give the application your best shot, because you might get it. And if you get it, it's a really great opportunity. And I think it will be extremely beneficial.
That's great. Thank you so much for your answer, and thank you so much for your time today.
All right. Thank you so much. And
actually, can we drop any email, as you just said, if we might have any question at all?
of course, my email is programs@bridgingthebar.org, and you can drop me an email if you have any questions at all. And I will be posting the recording of this on social media, etc., and linking it into the guide. The guide is your friend. Please use that in your application.
Okay. Sorry, what was your name? Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name is Ellen Attack.
Okay. No, I was, because I asked if I might have any question. What shall I? Who should I address my email? That's why.
No worries.
Thank you very much. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.